Give flat photos depth is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break. Let's see what we can accomplish in 15 minutes or less, starting now. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So I'm really excited because my good buddy Rob gave us these astro photos of the Milky Way shots that we'll be showing today. And I can't wait to show you guys some of the editing and concepts that we did with this. So keep this in mind. It's all subjective. So I'm going to give you a couple tips and tricks on photographing, whether it's Milky Ways or nighttime photography, whatever it is, the concepts will still work. So let me just dive right into that part for you. So here's the thing. Why do Milky Way photos look flat? Well, first of all, if you're shooting raw files are unfinished, okay? So they preserve the information instead of adding to that finished look. You know, my buddy Dale brought out a good point once. He said, think of it like cooking, okay? It's the ingredients, but they're not cooked yet. You didn't cook the edits into the image. So if you want to see what the camera does, because remember, Nikon, Canon, Fuji, all of them, Sony, they've invested millions of dollars to have the cameras think like us. So what's wrong with shooting RAW and JPEG? This way you can see what the camera is thinking, and then you, for RAW files, that's for photographers, that's where you create your own edits. The JPEGs is what the camera is predicting will look pretty good, but that's entirely up to you. RAW and JPEG, RAW is you're in control. JPEG, you're letting the camera do some of the preliminaries, all right? Now, the second one is the Milky Way has subtle contrast. You know, the bright clouds, they have dust lanes, and the skies are all close together in tone, so we have to separate those. And then night conditions reduce clarity, noise, haze, light pollution can make the image look washed out. Now, here in Florida, there's only a few places close to me in Melbourne that I can go like an hour away and there's no light pollution. It's pitch dark, beautiful, you can grab some great shots, but let's face it, I can't get those shots in Orlando. I can't, even going on the beach, believe it or not, the hotels and stuff along the beach has way too much light pollution. So if you really want to get these shots, then it's very important that you set it up properly. All right? Now, how can we add depth, or how well can we add depth? We can develop RAW. We'll set the white balance, and we'll go through there with a couple of the settings. We'll use noiseless AI, super contrast or curves, structure AI and details, and then the last is we're going to add a little color, and you know what? The mystical tool. The more photographers that do landscapes, and like Rob, I'm amazed at how much they love that mystical tool, just a little bit, all right? So we're going to dive into that, and I'm going to explore it with you, all right? So let's jump right in. So here I am, and by the way, so these are Rob's photos. I want you to see, this is him, and by the way, if you're interested, yes, he does a lot of workshops. So these are the images that he let me use and check out. So these are the ones that he edited. Oh, I love this one. And this is going to be, oh, I love that one too. This will be the one we'll be working on today. All right, and then here's the final one. And let me see if I have it right here, and I do. All right, so here's his workshops that he's coming up with. And let me get to this. There it is, it's right there. They have the Milky Way and the night skies. That looks pretty cool. Now, I thought he's my friend, so he says, hey, how would you like to come out storm chasing with me? I don't know if friends let friends go storm chasing, but look at these shots he's getting. And of course, he does wildlife, and then he does his urban stuff. So it's pretty cool. I love it. And yes, you know, I joke, but I would love to be included in some of those workshops. All right, so let me get to this shot here. Now, this was a stack. He stacked them all together. If this were a raw file, we'd have more leeway with it. But right now, it's compressed. He stacked it all in, the skies and the building itself. We're going to do the editing part of it, all right? So I did make in fact, I'm going to start out here. I'm going to create a virtual copy. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. What I am going to do is, because now we haven't done any edits to this yet, except a crop. I'm going to duplicate the layer. Now, I duplicated the layer because now I have the original up on top, but I'm going to start with the edits on the bottom layer. All right, and I'll show you why. In fact, I'm just going to hide this layer right here. There we go. All right, so first thing we're going to start with is let's come over here to develop. Now, I can just do auto adjust and let it try to figure out what it thinks is good. I like this, but I don't like the exposure. So I'm going to bring that down. I do like that we touched base with the highlights, and we didn't go overboard like this, what I have a tendency of doing. We'll go back to auto. There we go. And by the way, if you just double click on the point, it'll return it back to the default. We are going to bring out the shadow, or bring down the shadows just a little bit, because the key here is what I need to do is balance the sky with the image itself. Actually, let me just double check to make sure. Oh, you know what? Let me discard all these edits. I apologize. There we go. I thought it already looked a little too good in the beginning. So let's start that again. Auto. There we go. Let's see. Did it do it again? Yep, it did. So let me do this, just so we're on the same page. There, and I'm going to go back to edits. And by the way, think of that edits as your history. All right. So this is the history of all my edits. There we go. All right. So develop, auto adjust again. And now I'm going to take that and I am going to bring the exposure down a bit, because I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to balance it. I do like the highlights, the shadows. Here are the two key points, the black and white tones. This right here is what's going to help me with the contrast. So look close. Before, after. Look how it's bringing it in. And in super contrast, when I first did this, went way overboard because I wanted that really rustic look. That's just craziness. But that looks pretty good right about there. And if you notice, every time I go back, I'm going to keep adjusting. So we started out with the develop. We have that down. Now I'm going to jump into noiseless. From here, it's suggesting middle. After experimenting, I'm going to go with high. All right? So why? Well, again, Rob mentioned for ISO, in a case like this, if you expose, let's talk about lightning strikes, for example. If you expose for the sky itself, the moment that lightning bolt comes out, it blows out your photo. With Milky Way shots, this is where you're going to balance your exposure, and of course you have it on your tripod. Your ISO is going to help dictate, but you're going to get some of that noise. So let's see what it did. I'm going to zoom in really big. Now watch this. Ready? Before, after. Are you able to see? Let me go a little bit deeper in. Here we are again. So here's before, and look how that noiseless is cleaning it up. And by the way, since you did it once, I could just switch to these different ones. Notice it's not rebuilding it again, because it already did all three of them, and then you could decide which one you want to use. In this case, I chose the higher one. All right, so let's see so far. Before, after, we're off to a good start. So now that I have that set, now let's jump down to work with super contrast, and then we're also going to work a little bit with the curves. So here I am with super contrast, but here's the thing. I want to adjust the building. So if I start in, let's just go to an extreme so you can see this. Okay, so now look what it's doing to the building, but it's also adjusting the sky. Well, I don't want that, and I don't want to be distracted. So I'm going to come over to masking, and I'm going to use Mask AI. Now, typically, in a case like this, I could just say sky, then invert it, but it did a really good job at selecting the architecture. Look at this, and it selected the natural ground. So it's doing a pretty good job at selecting that for me. And then I can still come in with a brush tool and then just picking some of these little areas right here. But look, it did a pretty good job getting all that in for me. Now I'm not distracted. So when we're doing this, let me get to it, there we go. Now it's only adjusting the building. I'm not worried about what it's doing to the sky itself. So look at this, see that? So let's see the shadows. I'm gonna bring it out just a little bit. I'm gonna balance it here. All right, that looks good. Now, you know what? I'm gonna jump back up here to develop, and then let's look at the curves. The building, in fact, you know what? I should have done this in the very beginning. There we go. I'm gonna check. I'm clicking on these areas right up here, and the reason why I'm clicking on this is for the histogram, it's gonna tell me or show me what's blown out over here and what's pitch black, what's pure black. I don't want these, and I'll show you what I mean. If you notice, look at that. This means it's pitch black. If I start doing this, you'll start to see some of the other areas. Well, actually, that's not too bad, but you'll start to see you're pushing the histogram over to the right, and that's going to have blown out. This I'm not too worried about. So I look at right about there. It's looking pretty good. Look at that. Got it? All right. So I did this. Now I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to make a second instance. So by closing this, I'm going to create another instance of develop. And now I'm going to work on just the curves. What I'm looking at right now is that roof. So watch this. If I start doing this, look how it blows it out, and look how it's bringing the roof back. So let's go right about, let's go right about here maybe. Let's see if I dial this in. Nope, too much. Yeah, I'm going to go back to, there we go. And actually, yep. Let me see if I can just double click. There we go. All right, so now that I have the roof where I want it to be, right about there. Let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. But again, I don't want the sky touched. So let's go to masking. This time I'm going to use objects. So I'm going to select the area that I want this applied to, and I want it to be applied just to the roof itself. I'm not going to worry about these little spots here. You're never going to notice. There we go. So now, let me just show you. Look what it's doing. Now it's only affecting just the roof. Let me get back up where I was. There we go. So I'm going to bring that roof out just a little bit. There we go. Before, after, there. All right. So I did that. Now I do want to add a little more structure, but here's the thing. I know I have a tendency of going crazy and doing stuff like this. And I know poor Rob is cringing. So, and you're seeing all these little dots because I had these selected. Let me get rid of that. So I will not do that, but I will boost the finer details just a little bit, and I'll give it a little bit of structure AI. So the building is what I'm really concerned with. All right. So now that I have all that set, this is where the color part comes in. From here, I like to go down with saturation just a little bit, and then bump up the vibrancy just a touch. And it's a very subtle. Look at this. Do you see that with the bottom? It's a subtle move, but it adds just that little extra to it. Look at that. Just that little. All right. And then, now that I have this set, I'm going to come in with mystical. So we're going to get creative, mystical, and again, let's not go crazy like this, although I really love what it's doing down here. Let's dial it back a bit. Just give it a little kiss. Smooth it out a little. Let's see the shadows. Look at that. Look how it's playing in the shadows. Look at that. Just enough to make a difference. There we go. All right, now, so here's before and after. Here's before. There's after. There we go. Now, let's bring back that top layer. So this is the original. So why did I put it up on top? Well, what I can do now is control the strength. So I'm going to bump it up right about there. So now watch this. Let me hide that again. If you went overboard, which I did in the very, no, I'm not going to show you. I really overdid this edit in the very first time. So I went back and of course I mellowed it out. But let's do this. If I came in under here in colors, and let's say the hue and saturation, I'm going to do the luminance. So from here, let's see that blue. Ooh, look what I'm doing to the blue now. Making it darker, brighter. Let's move it up just a little bit. And let's just say I brought the saturation a little bit too much. Okay, now that's aggressive, right? Well, if I bring back this layer, look what just happened. Now I can dial in or dial out the strength. So right about there. All right. And then give it a moment to process. Here we are, before, after, and that was for the top one. And then for this one down here, what I am going to do is I'm looking at this a little bit more. Maybe, I really love the sky. Maybe this is a little bit too much. Well, if that's the case, global change versus local change. So I may come in here, make the entire image just a little bit darker. All I'm looking at really right now is at the house, and maybe dial back the shadows a little bit. Now, let's use linear gradient. And I'm going to drag it up. So it's really not messing with the sky, but what I just did, there we go, look at that. So I brought the house itself back a little bit more into proper exposure. All right. So there we have it. And again, because astrophotography and Milky Way shots like this, it's not my specialty. So I would talk to my buddy Rob and a few others that are absolutely amazing at this stuff and say, what do you like? Now, here's the key. And after talking with Rob and a few others, it's what do you like? What do you like in your images? If you're not selling this to the public and you're doing it just for yourself, who cares what other people think? If you like it, that's all that matters. And then, of course, as long as you keep an open mind and listen to other people, you'll be able to get ideas down. All right. So here we are again. If you're interested in any of his workshops, that's the link. You can just click on that and it'll show you. Keep in mind, coming up soon, well, not soon, October, I will be in New Jersey. We're doing a Civil War reenactment. This is going to be amazing. We'll have live cannons. We'll have tents. The Civil War. What do you call them? The actors. All right. The ones who are coming out. They're going to pitch tents, and they're going to make it look like how it would be way back in the day. And I think some of them are staying there over the weekend. So if you're into it, you can check this out. We're going to be doing a lot of photography, and the theme is just going to be Civil War, but it's going to be applied to almost anything. All right? So there you have it. Now, if you're here, please stick around for the Ask Me Anything segment. For everyone else, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.